What is going on, Road Express? I'm Joshua Thomas, and I'm back with some more Final Fantasy VII Part 2, or Remake Part 2 theory crafting, and we're going to go over what I have been meaning to talk about. You know, I really should have started doing this stuff in chronological order, but how is Remake Part 2 going to begin? How's it going to open up? So first off, let's see. I've got some nice new reels here. Oh yeah, this is all from the PlayStation 5. So it is nice, clean, and crisp looking. So we're going to dive into how the game's going to open and what's our loadout going to be. Our primary thing is going to be going over what I think Chapter 1 is going to encompass. And pay attention to this scene right here, because this is going to be a part of it. I'm going to show you what happened in the original. So if you haven't seen or played the original Final Fantasy VII, if you've only played Remake Part 1, then you may have some spoilers here. We're going to uncover a lot of what you saw in the flashbacks in Final Fantasy VII Remake. So if you're curious, if you're interested, this stuff I'm theorizing is going to be at the very beginning of Part 2. So whether you want to call that a spoiler content or not, that's up to you. But if you want to, keep it all, just clean and fresh, so that when you play it Part 2 for the first time, having never played the original, then yeah, just make sure you save this video for another time and maybe just go check out one of my other videos. Thank you for joining us. I will be asking questions throughout, so feel free to answer those in our live chat, and I will try to get to them. And let's just go ahead and get started. So before we dive into the footage from the original, a lot of people are theorizing that Part 2 is going to open up in the flashback to Calm. Or not the flashback to Calm, but the flashback that takes place in Calm, which is the town we go to after Midgar. And if you played Intermission and finished Yuffie's DLC, then you saw our party walking to Calm and actually getting picked up by the Chocobo Ranch guy. I think his name's Chocobo Bill, that's it. And being dropped off just on the outskirts of Calm. And that's where the flashback takes place. And I think that is where we're going to pick up at the very beginning, is inside the flashback. So let's switch over to it. I'm going to be skipping around in this video. So one thing we got to know is that if you take your time and really explore the town of Nibelheim, which is Cloud and Tifa's hometown, the mansion, and some other areas, you can spend a good 45 to 50 minutes just in the flashback alone. Now, there are times where it will switch back to the inn, which is what you see right here. So this is the inn in Calm, where Cloud is telling the rest of the party about the events that happened 5 years ago, and he even says, hey, this happened 5 years ago, I was 16. So that lets you know that in Remake, Cloud is 21 years old, and Tifa is roughly the same age, maybe 1 year or half a year younger. But let's see. So here we have Cloud and Sephiroth in the back of just a Shinra military transport, and they're heading to Calm. They're talking about their mission. They're saying that they're going there to investigate some strange happenings there. There are monsters showing up, and they want to go check out the reactor in Nibelheim. This also is where Shinra Manor is, so I don't know, it doesn't really go into the history of the Shinra Manor much, but it seems to imply that maybe Shinra had a headquarters here in Nibelheim before their headquarters was built in Midgar and the city of Mako, was constructed. So definitely a lot of interesting things happen in Nibelheim, both in the past and during the events of the original game. So let's see where we are here. It's going to start off something like this. They're in the back of a truck driving. It's raining, you can see. I love the way that the windshield wipers are going and rain is hitting it. And then they're going to get attacked by a monster. And this is where... Let's see, there we go. Alright, the monster attacks. And this is the first time that we actually get to see Sephiroth in action in the original game. And it is completely just so badass experiencing this for the first time. So you're going to see here, this dragon one-shots Cloud. He's just dead. And Sephiroth, oh man, I looked in the stats a little later in this video, but I'll probably skip through that. You're level 1 in the flashback, and Sephiroth is level 50. It takes him 2 shots to just completely wipe out that dragon that one-shotted us. And yeah, so he talks about his strength being unmatched. It's not going to have the same impact in the remake as it did in the original, because we've already seen Sephiroth in action, and we've already beaten him, sort of. I put it in quotation marks. We've beaten Sephiroth. I really don't think that we have beaten Sephiroth at all at the end of Remake Part 1. I think he just kind of was toying with us, and he let us think that we got our way, when in fact we did exactly what Sephiroth wanted us to do. But either way, it's not going to have the same impact. A lot of people are complaining about that. It's that moment that you get to see the strength of Sephiroth. Here he says his mother's name is Genova. She died when he was born, so this is some really interesting stuff. And it's going to definitely play in when we get later in here. But one of the things that you can do is, once you come in, you've got these 2 other, regular Shinra guards that are with you. You can interact with them. They're with you throughout the game. And let's skip a little bit forward. So you can just kind of wander around your hometown. And Sephiroth says, hey, look, we've got some time. We're going to go there first thing tomorrow, and we've got someone from the town to guide us there. But we don't know who it is yet. So yeah, this is the part where he says, hey, get some rest. So anyway, we talk about the family. Cloud's father died when he was still young. His mother lived alone in the house. And let's see if I can skip to the part where, yes, here we go. So this is a flashback that is in Part 1, where she basically says, the temptations of the big city. So Cloud's mother's name is Claudia in the remake. And a lot of people were like, hey, is that his mother? Because she looks kind of young. But in here, he's 16 years old in this flashback. So they almost recreated it verbatim. But then there are some extra parts in here that... there are some extra parts in here that we didn't get to see. Maybe we'll see it at the beginning of Part 2. But I think we're going to have a few more combat sequences to introduce us to the new combat system, or the updated combat system, much like at the beginning of Part 1 where we're raiding Reactor 1. We're introduced very slowly. First we learn to attack, then we learn to use our commands, evade and dodge, and so on. And so I think we're going to be with Sephiroth fighting multiple waves of monsters at the very beginning. That's going to be the hook. That's going to be the exciting part that gets us in to Remake Part 2. And then it's going to drop us off in the town here where some mysterious things are happening. Here are we're in Tifa's house, and the cool thing was that Cloud kind of has this narration where Tifa asks, "Hey, did you go into my house?" And Cloud's like, "Yeah, I went into your house." And it can go further than that. I think it maybe even, like, Cloud even jokes with her about, getting into her underwear drawer. "Did you go into my room?" Yeah. So it goes into that. There are also segments, I'm going to skip ahead again, where you can try to enter some buildings, but then Cloud is kind of like, "No, wait, I didn't go into this building when I was back in Nibelheim 5 years ago." So it'll be interesting to see how exactly it plays out, if we're going to have those roadblocks or those blocks where Cloud says, "Hey, I didn't go here." Right here, this is the first time we meet Zangan. Zangan is the guy who trains Tifa in martial arts, so he's the reason why Tifa is such a badass with her fists and knows all these cool moves. So it's really going to be interesting to meet Zangan. I think they're going to flesh this guy out a little bit, and I think we're going to learn a lot more about him. Maybe we'll even learn some more lore about him. I think it's unclear as to whether he actually dies in this town or not later on, because after the flashback, I don't know that we ever do see Zangan anywhere else in the world map in the rest of the original Final Fantasy. Someone come into the comments and correct me if I'm wrong about that. But you meet him there. You're going to meet him in a couple other areas. Here we talk to Sephiroth again. Let's fast forward again. Oh, back up a little bit. Here we go. So this is where you first find out that Cowgirl Tifa is your guide. So this is Tifa in her cowgirl outfit back when she was a teenager. She's going to be the guide. And then this guy comes up, asks for a memento, so they're going to get a photograph. Can't remember if that shows the photograph right here or not. So Cloud, Sephiroth, and Tifa go up for the photograph. And keep in mind, you guys remember the water tower flashback where Cloud promises to, come back and save her if anything ever happens. Yeah, I'll give you each a copy. And, oh, okay, it just cuts straight to here. These amazing graphics that totally hooked us in back in 1997. Now it's the kind of stuff that you can download Unreal Engine 5 and create for yourself. So Tifa is the one that guides them to the Mount Nibel reactor. So this is Mount Nibel, which is beyond the town. We'll fast forward a little bit. There's a point at which I think this is where the bridge breaks. Yeah, the bridge breaks right here. And they get separated a little bit. It's a minor setback in this backstory. They land, they continue on. We get to see more fighting with Sephiroth, so once again, there's so much content in the flashback itself that I don't know that they will make 2 chapters out of this in Remake Part 2, but there's enough here that they could if they wanted to. So let me know what you think in the comments section. Do you guys think that they could split this up into 2 chapters? And let me know how many chapters total you think this next game is going to be. Whether you think it's going to end in Nibelheim, like I've theorized before, or whether it's going to go further. I'm teetering on whether I think it's going to go to Nibelheim or whether it's going to go beyond Nibelheim, maybe to the Temple of the Ancients, and maybe have some kind of climactic battle there. But I don't see it going much further than the Temple of the Ancients. So yeah, leave a comment or in the live chat if whatever you guys think. So you go through the cave. There's a point in here where, yeah, you guys get to see some natural materia, and Sephiroth has, you know, a little conversation about what it is. It's the power of the planet, yada yada yada. Tifa makes a funny gesture at some point. She like kind of like just collapses over. I can't remember. there, right there. I don't know what. I can't remember what exactly she's doing. Oh man. But anyway. So we go to the reactor. One of the Shinra soldiers stops Tifa from being allowed to enter the reactor, but this is where the Sephiroth that we all know is created, essentially. This is where the big change happens. This is where Sephiroth goes from being, you know, the hero of the war to just this insane man who is willing to slaughter an entire town. So we go into this then this is an older reactor. This is one of the original reactors before Midgar was built, so it predates Midgar, if I'm not mistaken. So we go in here, and then we go up. And remember how Sephiroth mentioned that his mother's name was Genova? Well, this is Genova. It won't open. Sephiroth's like, why is this named after my mother? And so, let me see if I can skip just a little bit forward here. Yeah, so this is where he starts to lose it. Get to look inside here in these containers. See these monsters that are being created by Shinra. And then this is where, you know, Sephiroth says, I'm the same. You know, he's like, I'm one of the monsters that was created. I'm going to skip forward. So once again, they're flashing back to the inn at Calm. And then, I'm going to skip back here a little bit. Yeah, so we come in the next day after coming back to Nibelheim. Sephiroth has disappeared. No one sees where he's gone. Or no, wait, he's in the basement. I think that's what happens. And so we see everyone in the town. Cloud's like, you know, I'm going to go check on him. Now, this is another point at which, you know, from here on, we've already spent a good 20 minutes in this flashback. And we're a little over halfway through it. So at this point, you can basically just explore the mansion. There's not too much stuff to do here, but there are going to be things that allude to your return to the mansion. So being able to play this piano, when you return to Nibelheim in the present day in the game, you get to play this piano again, and there may or may not be, you know, important things associated with this piano. But we'll fast forward here. Yep, there we go. And then you see another soldier. He's like, hey, Sephiroth's over here, I think. And then we go down into the basement of the Shinra Manor. And this is where we're going to confront Sephiroth. We can see the bones, the tomb that Vincent is encased in back there, or just locked in. And then we just see Sephiroth reading all these notes from Professor Gast and possibly from Professor Hojo as well. So he's learning about everything that's happened. And so I'm torn between a couple different things here. I feel like if they made this one chapter, that it could be almost a one-for-one recreation of what we're seeing here, the events that we've seen here so far. Basically, Sephiroth is standing there. This is the point at which he's going mad. He's learned all this stuff, you know. I think it says here that Sephiroth locked himself basically in Shinra Manor and just read book after book after book. So, much like in Chapter 1 of the remake, it's almost a one-for-one remake of the original Mako Reactor 1 destruction mission. If they do decide to go one-for-one here, I could still see this being a pretty long chapter, up to maybe an hour, hour and a half. There are some slow moments mixed in here, but overall I think if they give us this plenty of combat in the beginning to teach us and get us up to date with it, show us the strength of Sephiroth. Let me know in a comment if you think Sephiroth is going to be playable. I don't think he's going to be playable. I don't even think we're going to get to have synergy with him at this point. And my whole reasoning for that is that Sephiroth is uncontrollable in the game and in real life. Like, we can't control him. He's not a controllable entity within the game. And I think the game makers are going to want us to feel that. I go into a lot more detail on this in a video that I made last year, and I'll be sure and post a link to that video in this one, either in a card or at the very end of this video after the live stream's over and I'm able to set it up. So here we got, Sephiroth has essentially made his descent into madness. He's learned that, he's supposedly got the blood of the ancients running through his veins. I can't remember if this is the part where he actually says, this planet is my birthright, but he does go into saying things like this in the flashback to Calm. So we go through more of this. Let me see if I can find... Yep, here we go. Let me back it up a little bit so we can see this. So, after this, Cloud chases Sephiroth back out, but it's too late. Sephiroth has already destroyed, this entire village. We see Zangan here. So, Zangan goes into one building to try and help people, and I can't remember if maybe he doesn't make it out or not. Let me know in a comment whether if you think Zangan, or if you know that Zangan makes it out of the city alive. But and specifically I think Cloud goes to his house. Like, that is Cloud's house that he goes to, that we're told to check out. So we go there. We don't even get to go inside. He just comes back out, shakes his head, and then here in a second, we're going to see the infamous scene. He turns around. There, yep, Sephiroth is killing more townsfolk. And then it happens. So we saw that scene at the beginning in Chapter 2 of Remake, where he's turning around in the flames, walking into the flames. I don't think he actually walks into the flames, but we see it in Chapter 2. And then we flash forward to... Oh, too far. Too far again. Here we go. And we've seen this in the flashback in Remake Part 1 as well, where Tifa is standing over her father's dead body. Sephiroth's sword is right there. So since we've seen in Remake Part 1 all these little hints to the instances that happened in the past, we're definitely going to get these. We're going to be able to play through these in Remake Part 2. And we get to see what happens to Tifa and why she might question, the events that happened in her past. See, she tries to attack Sephiroth here with his own sword. And then she is mortally wounded by Sephiroth. And then Cloud comes running in, a little too late. It's going to be so amazing to see these in 4K resolution on the PlayStation 5. You know it's going to be on the PlayStation 5 first. It's going to be an exclusive probably for a year or maybe a year and a half, depending on whether they come out with another DLC like they did with Intermission. But yeah, there's Tifa saying, you know, you promised you'd be there. And then Cloud goes to confront Sephiroth. Let me see. Yep, here we go. So yeah, this was one of those scenes that you see in the commercial way back when. You see this part right here, and it's just like, what the heck am I watching? Oh man. And it's revealed. We see Genova for the first time, at least in, you know, the flashback. Hey, she's got a head this time too, and one glowing red eye too. So yeah, and the rest is history there. I think it shows Cloud attacking Sephiroth. So yeah, it's... Let me know in a comment what you would like to see in the flashback to Calm. I said it again, the flashback to Nibelheim that takes place in Calm. And this is where the flashback ends right here. We see them, the whole sort of samurai, you know, looking back and forth. And then that's it. Cloud doesn't remember what happened after that. Alright, so let's go back to our hype reel. Such good footage. So yeah, that's the flashback. That's how I think that part 1 or chapter 1 of Remake Part 2 is going to take place. So while we're watching this beautiful footage, let's talk about one more thing. And this one we won't take so much time on, but let's talk about the theories of what our loadout's going to be. Yeah, I know it's kind of a big segue, but hey, our first items that we get in Part 2, our first chapter in Part 2. So this is the kind of thing, it kind of goes together. A lot of people want to get all of their stuff from Part 1 and be able to migrate it to Part 2. So they want all their materia, all the weapons, all of the abilities that we've acquired. I don't know that I see that happening. It's pretty vague what happens after the final battle with Sephiroth in Remake Part 1, but we go from being in this singularity, and yeah, we've got all of our materia and equipment with us, and then we're just kind of magically outside of Midgar afterwards on that cliff. And it's before we enter the singularities, before we enter the final battle with Sephiroth, that Aerith says, you know, if we enter this, if we go through with this, we're going to be changing ourselves permanently, forever. So I'm wondering if in this transition, in this changing of themselves, they are going to have their abilities kind of wiped away. I'm going to find it hard to believe that we're going to be starting off at level 50 at the very beginning of a game, because you've also got to consider it would be kind of odd for people to have this be their first game, having not played Remake Part 1, but they have to create the first part of the game with a little bit of a learning curve to it for first-time players. They've got to introduce the new systems to it, and I don't see them just saying, hey, look guys, you're level 50 right from the get-go, and then here's like 50 materia all maxed out, because that leaves no room for growth in Remake Part 2. if we have maxed out materia, if we already have 6 abilities to go through and all these other materia that give us extra abilities, that leaves no room in the game for learning the game, learning how to play it, or in this case, relearning it. And I wish I could speak better for other RPGs that have trilogies like Mass Effect, or say Final Fantasy 13. They have a trilogy as well. I never did play 13-2, but I did play Lightning Returns. And in Lightning Returns, hey, that's the third installment in a game, and you're starting at level 1. They perhaps have very good reasons for it. Oh, hey, here's the flashback for Tifa, Cowgirl Tifa. But so I'm theorizing here that we're going to have our base weapons back. Cloud's going to have his Buster Sword. I don't know if it'll be all the way down back to like level 1 where it can only have 2 materia and you have to build it back up. I do like that in Remake Part 1 the Buster Sword is never a bad weapon to have. It's really just up to you, up to your choice, whether you want to have more magic attack and more materia, or if you want to use the Buster Sword for its abilities. And then eventually you can upgrade the Buster Sword to have the same abilities as any of the other swords, except it's got really good defense and it's got 4 or 5 materia slots, that kind of thing. So they want to give us room for growth at the beginning of Part 2 again. So if we do have a loadout of materia already, I think all that materia is going to be at level 1. Once again, starting over in this sort of parallel dimension, or the Beagle or Terrier verse, whichever you want to call it. And I think that's going to be kind of the excuse for starting us over at level 1 or at a low level. Maybe they'll lower us to maybe like level 15 or 20. I could see that happening. It would be good if we can get above level 50, though, in Remake Part 2. I do agree with that. We do need to end up being more powerful at the end of Remake Part 2 than we were at the end of Remake. So, let me get a drink of water here. And then a lot of people are saying maybe Yuffie will steal our materia. Wouldn't that be fun? Based on the end of Intermission, she's looking for people to travel with. She's looking for a new group for her to lead. So I don't see her wanting to steal their materia right away. And I don't believe that's going to happen. That was mainly just something that was done in the new threat mod of the original Final Fantasy that you can get on Steam. It's basically just fan-made stuff. It's fan-made content. I don't see them adding it to the game. So eventually, I think she'll want to steal their materia, maybe when they get closer to Wutai. But I don't see it happening at the beginning of Remake Part 2 in Calm. But yeah, I think they're going to use the flashback to teach us all of the basics, and so that could give us an excuse to have more than just a few materia at the beginning of Chapter 2, which will be where we basically go back to the present and continue on the story, leave Calm, go to the Chocobo Ranch, that kind of thing. But let me know what you want to see at the beginning of Remake Part 2. Let me know what level you want the characters to be at, whether you want everything to start over fresh, kind of like I mentioned, or if you think that we should have some maxed out materia and start off at level 50 and all that kind of stuff. Because keep in mind also, like, we're going to be fighting little weird creatures, like little grass creatures. And it would be kind of weird to be like level 50, like beefed up, and being, getting our butts kicked by these essentially peon world map creatures. So I think we're going to end it there. let me know in a comment below how you like this video. Let me know what you think Chapter 1's going to be and what you think the loadout's going to be, and any other comments that you have based on what we talked about. Thank you guys for watching. I look forward to making more Final Fantasy VII content, and be sure to check out all of our other video game and board game content on the Film Express, and then be sure and check out these videos that also have to do with Final Fantasy VII. Thanks for watching. Check you guys next time.